CCA Workbench, Dave.
Yes, sir.
Rigs and techniques. Golly, you got some cool stuff
I spent
here.
some of your money today.
Oh,
I'm just
so
kidding.
glad.
I'm just kidding.
To help.
Anyway, well, we're talking about crankbaits, and you know, when you're using a crankbait, what you're trying to do usually is you're trying to find the fish, or you're trying to work a school of deep fish, or you've marked some fish in some structure and you're trying to get them out of there. You know, there's several things that you can do, and so they make all kinds of different ones, and the most common ones you see are these lipped plugs here, and these big lipped plugs are made to dive deep, you know, anywhere from 10 to 25 feet. You know, they have shallow runner ones, and you can tell how they're going to go just by looking at that big lip. You know, if they've got a really long lip that's wide, it's probably going to go deep and wobble. If it's got a really shallow, tiny little lip like this Rapala here, it's going to be a tight minnow type wiggle instead of a wide wobble. You can
tell this shadow rap's been in a few places.
That shadow rap has been down the gullet of a few fish, actually. I really like that. That's a crankbait where you pull it, and then stop. You know, pull it, and then stop, and it suspends, and that's why they call it a shadow rap. It'll just hang.
Goes down.
Right.
Yeah.
And what really triggers...
It's all in the paw.
That's right. It's the truth, though. And that's how all these crankbaits work, you know. It's a reaction strike. The thing is moving, hauling butt, and then it'll hit something. Usually when you're using a square bill like this, you're bouncing it off stuff. You're bouncing it off rocks or, ledges,
and it
timber.
swims like this.
Right.
So most of the time the hooks are out of harm's way.
Correct. And that little square bill is enough to usually, bill hits the thing first and it'll bounce off. And they're kind of a finesse bait too, all of these, because you need to be able to feel what's going on the other end, and you need to know how deep they're going. And that's the thing. You should know before you even start how deep that plug is going to go and how deep the water you're fishing in. Now, in a lot of places where you don't have that really hard bottom, where you have soft bottoms and stuff, you're going to want to use the lures with the smaller bills and a tighter, minnow type wiggle, because they're not going to get caught up in the weeds as much. Now, they're really hard to throw in a place where there's a lot of hydrilla and stuff. So unless it's at a certain level, you're going to have to either get your retrieve right or get a better bill. Now there's several things beyond the bill that makes tells you how deep these things are going to go. A long cast. You want to use a rod that'll give you a long cast, and you want to use line that'll give you a long cast. You don't want to use it real heavy stuff, because the longer you can make the cast, the more time that lure has to get down to where it's designed to go. Long cast and lighter line gets you down deep. And if you're going up higher, you got to realize, if your line's heavier, the lure's probably not going to go as deep. And there's a lot of things you can do. You can put a split shot out in front of the plug if you'd like, to make it go deeper. You can even put a Carolina rigget. You can put a real heavy little weight right on the nose of the bait and make it go down deeper. Not only do you have the lipped plugs that dive, you also have lipless crankbaits, which, the rattle trap is probably the most famous of all. My very first lure I ever bought was 3 rattle traps in the back of a Bassmasters magazine. I got 3 for $5 or something. And, they're deadly effective. Most of these lipless crankbaits have rattles in them. They make a lot of noise. I can feel that thing coming from a long way away from in the bottom of my flats boat. Mainly the colors that you're going to be dealing with are going to be the bait fish colors, the whites, the light colors, the chromes, like that Rapala that is going to be, is going to be mimicking a bait fish. Also, you're going to have crawdad colors, because they're going to be mimicking the crawdads and stuff that are bouncing along the bottom. Also going to have some maybe a color like the bluegills and sunfish, perches and stuff like that. Those are probably the 3 main colors, and the hardest part is trying to get the size down. A lot of fish are really, when they're eating a school of bait, they are really honed in on that particular size. So, I go through a lot of different sizes trying to match the hatch about what the size is, because you got to figure, no matter what color it is, these things are reactionary, and so when they're coming through there and bouncing off stuff, it really doesn't matter what color it is. they're going to be hitting it because they don't like it. They don't like it in there making a whole lot of noise
What
in their
about
spot.
the ones that look like a school of fish?
That does look like a school of fish. But again, it's going to do the same things no matter what it looks like, how many eyes you put on it. If you know, it's going to, regardless, it's going to be what happens with that lip. That's going to be just by looking at it. It's going to not dive very shallow. It's going to stay within the first foot, and it's going to shimmy like a minnow, which is what you want it to do.
I like it.
So-
Good info over here, Dave.
No worries.
Bree, you heard it right out of his mouth, straight from the lip. It's all about the
Shimmy,
lip.
shimmy.
From the lip.
It's all about the shimmy.